At my father's birthday, I saw my gift tossed in the trash. My brother smirked. It was just a mistake. I said nothing and walked away. A week later, Dad called. His voice shaking. Why did the venue cancel your brother's wedding? I just smiled. My name is Nancy King. I'm 36 years old. A single mom. And for 3 solid months, I had poured every spare ounce of my heart into making my dad's 60th birthday unforgettable. The centerpiece of my efforts was a photo album. A meticulously crafted chronicle of a life well lived. I had unearthed old family pictures from dusty attics. Carefully penned, handwritten notes beside each one. And chosen every moment with the singular goal of making him smile. Our suburban Cleveland home buzzed with the warmth of family and friends. Of their laughter, a joyful symphony filling the air. I held the gift. A heavy, leather-bound tome. Tightly against my chest. My own heart thrumming with anticipation. I was waiting for that perfect moment. After the cake and the toasts. When Dad would open it, in front of everyone who loved him. But just as I set the album down on the gift table, a sharp, violent ripping sound tore through the cheerful chatter. It was a sound so brutal and definitive that it sliced through the noise like a blade. My heart didn't just drop. It plummeted. I spun around. My eyes scanning the room. And then I froze. My brother, Stephen, stood over a nearby trash can. At his feet, like a fallen soldier, lay the shredded, mangled remains of my album. Oops. Just an accident. He sneered. His voice dripping with a thick, syrupy mockery that was meant to be heard. A few of his friends, distant cousins I barely knew, burst into ugly, sharp laughter. Before I could even form a word, my mother, Frances, rushed to his defense. Her hands fluttering in a gesture of dismissal. Oh. Come on. Nancy. Don't make a fuss. She said. Her voice a sharp reprimand. He didn't mean it. It was just a silly mistake. I stood there, paralyzed in a bubble of shock and humiliation. My fists were clenched so tightly that my nails were digging painful crescents into my palms. And a hot, furious blush burned across my face. The room, which had been so full of life moments before, fell into a stunned, uncomfortable silence, punctuated only by the dying snickers of a few onlookers. I caught a glimpse of Dad's face. It was a canvas of bewilderment and genuine hurt. He didn't understand what had just happened. But he knew it was cruel. Not a single person spoke up for me. Not an aunt. Not an uncle. Not one of the lifelong family friends who had watched me grow up. I felt tuteri. Terrifyingly alone. I swallowed the hard, painful lump that had formed in my throat. Grabbed my bag from a nearby chair. And walked out the front door without another word. The cool night air hit my burning cheeks. But it did nothing to cool the rage simmering inside me. As I walked to my car, I made a silent, steely vow. This would not be the end of it. That moment wasn't just about a ruined gift. It was the deliberate, public desecration of my love for my father. It lit a fuse, igniting a chain of events that would ultimately flip our entire family upside down. I had no idea then how far my brother's betrayal would go. Or how fiercely I would be forced to fight back. To understand why things fell apart so spectacularly, let me take you back. Growing up in the King household in Cleveland, Ohio, I always felt like I was playing second fiddle. My parents, William and Frances, had a seemingly inexhaustible supply of praise for my brother, Stephen King. He was the golden child, the hotshot marketing executive. And every deal he closed was cause for a family-wide celebration. His name was always on their lips. Stephen's latest campaign. Stephen's fancy client dinner. Stephen just got a new promotion. He stole the spotlight at every family gathering. His loud, confident stories, drowning out any of my own quiet achievements. For a long time, I didn't mind. Or at least, I told myself I didn't. As a single mom, working long hours at a bank, I was busy building a life for my son and me, a life I could be proud of. Independent of my family's approval. But deep down, in a place I rarely admitted to, I desperately wanted one moment to shine. One moment to show Dad that I, too, could make him proud. That moment was supposed to be his 60th birthday. The photo album was more than a gift. It was my proof. I had spent months on it. A true labor of love. I scoured my parents' attic, my own closets, and even my grandmother's old hope chest, searching for forgotten family pictures. I found photos of Dad as a handsome young man with a full head of dark hair, Polaroids from our childhood, camping trips in the Cuyahoga Valley, and faded black and white snapshots of my mother's that she hadn't seen in decades. Each photo was a memory I carefully pieced back together, gluing them onto thick, archival quality pages. Beside each one, I wrote notes in my best cursive, sharing the stories behind the images. Memories that only he and I shared. I spent over $300 on custom binding, the archival paper, and a supple, dark brown leather cover with his initials embossed in gold. It wasn't just a gift, it was a tangible piece of our family's history, meant to make Dad smile in a way I hadn't seen in years. The day of the party arrived, and our house was alive. Dad was in high spirits. His face lit up as he laughed with old friends, the wrinkles around his eyes crinkling the way they did when he was truly, deeply happy. Across the room, I caught a glimpse of Stephen. His posture was stiff, his smile forced and brittle. His fiancée, Diane Porter, stood nearby, chatting politely with a cousin. But she kept glancing at him, with a worried furrow in her brow. I should have recognized the storm clouds gathering, but I was too focused on my moment, on handing Dad that album, and seeing his face light up with joy. The party hummed along. Guests toasted Dad's milestone, their glasses raised high. I was chatting with a cousin near the kitchen when that awful sound cut through the noise, the distinct, violent sound of paper being torn. A sound, like a knife stabbing through my chest. My heart sank. I pushed through the crowd, my eyes darting frantically to the gift table. It was empty. The space where my album had been was now bare. I spun around, my gaze sweeping the room until it landed on the trash can in the corner, its lid slightly ajar. My legs moved before my brain caught up, a cold dread propelling me forward. And there it was. My album. Its pages ripped from the binding, the photos crumpled and mangled. The rich leather cover was slashed. A deep, angry gash, running across my father's initials. Ink from my handwritten notes was smeared across the torn memories, blurring our history into an ugly, meaningless stain. My throat tightened, and a suffocating wave of betrayal washed over me. I looked up, and Stephen was there, leaning against the wall with a drink in his hand, his eyes cold and devoid of emotion. He didn't say a word, but his smirk said everything. I wanted to demand answers, to scream at him for destroying something so deeply personal. But the sound of Dad's happy laughter from the other room stopped me. I couldn't ruin his day. Not like this. So I stood there, staring at the wreckage of my gift, my hands trembling. This wasn't just about an album. This was about Stephen's pathological need to tear me down, to ensure I remained forever in his shadow. I didn't know it then, but that single, malicious act was the spark that would unravel our family, exposing the ugly truths we had all chosen to ignore for far too long. Standing there at the party, my pulse was a frantic drum against my ribs, the image of the torn pages of my album burning in my mind. I had to confront him. I weaved through the crowd, my eyes locked on his form as he lounged against the wall, sipping his drink as if he hadn't just committed an act of breathtaking cruelty. "Stephen," I said, my voice low, but sharp enough to cut through his feigned indifference. "Why did you destroy my gift?" He didn't even flinch. A slow, mocking grin spread across his face, a look of pure, unadulterated contempt. "Oh, that old thing. Just an accident," he said, his tone so smug it made my skin crawl. There was no apology, no hint of remorse. There was just that infuriating smirk, a silent dare for me to push further. I stood there, my fists balled at my sides, a primal scream building in my chest. I wanted to shout, to make him admit what he'd done in front of everyone, to expose him for the petty, jealous man he was. But the happy chatter of the guests and the sound of Dad's laughter held me back. I wasn't going to let Stephen turn his own father's birthday party into a spectacle of our broken relationship. That would be giving him another victory. Instead, I turned, grabbed my coat from the rack by the door, and slipped out into the cool Cleveland night. My breath came in shaky. Ragged gasps. I needed to get away. To put distance between us before I said something I would regret in front of Dad. The image of those crumpled photos. My handwritten notes, smeared with ink, kept flashing in my head. I had poured my soul into that gift. And Stephen had treated it like garbage. Worse. He had enjoyed it. I could still see the glint of satisfaction in his eyes. I drove home on autopilot, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, replaying his words over and over. Just an accident. How could my own brother do this? What had I ever done to him to deserve such hatred? Later that evening, my best friend, Carol Harris, showed up at my doorstep with a bottle of wine and a look of deep concern. She'd been at the party and had seen me leave abruptly. Nancy. What on earth happened back there? She asked. Her voice soft but urgent as she followed me into the living room. I let it all spill out, the months of work on the album. Stephen's snare. The way he had dismissed my pain as nothing. Carol sat with me on the couch. A steady, grounding presence as I vented all my anger and hurt. He's always been like this, I said, my voice finally cracking. Always needing to be the center of attention. Always finding a way to put me down. It's like he can't stand it if I have anything that's just mine. Carol nodded, her eyes full of a deep, unwavering understanding that I was so grateful for. You don't deserve this, Nancy, she said firmly. You put so much love into that gift. And he stomped all over it, like a child throwing a tantrum. He's a bully. Her words didn't erase the pain, but they helped me breathe a little easier, grounding me when I felt like I was falling apart. I thought the worst was over for the night. But then my phone buzzed with a notification. A text from Stephen. My stomach twisted into a tight, anxious knot as I opened it. Nice try with that scrapbook, sis. Too bad, it ended up where it belongs. It read, followed by a winking emoji. I stared at the screen. A hot, white rage boiling my blood. He wasn't just cruel, he was relishing it. He was rubbing salt in a wound he had just inflicted. I wanted to fire back. To tell him exactly what I thought of him, in the most blistering terms I could conjure. But I stopped myself. Replying would only give him what he wanted, a reaction. A fight. More drama, to feed his ego. Instead, I tossed my phone onto the couch. My hands trembling with a rage so intense. It felt like a physical force. Carol saw the look on my face and grabbed the phone. Her jaw dropping as she read the message. He's unbelievable, she muttered, her own voice laced with disgust. Nancy, you cannot let him get away with this. She was right. Stephen's text wasn't just a taunt, it was a challenge. It was a clear, arrogant declaration that he believed he could walk all over me and face no consequences. For years, I had brushed off his jabs, his backhanded compliments, his subtle put-downs, telling myself it was just how he was. But this was different. This wasn't a jab, this was an assault. This was about him trying to erase my place in our family. To ensure I stayed small and insignificant in his shadow. I paced my living room, my mind racing, while Carol watched quietly, giving me the space I needed to process. I'm not going to let him win, I said finally, my voice surprisingly steady for the first time that night. Not this time. As Carol left, promising to check in the next day, I sat alone in the quiet of my house, staring at the ceiling. Stephen's actions weren't a one-off outburst. They were a pattern. A calculated campaign to keep me small. I didn't know how I was going to make him face the consequences yet. But I knew with absolute certainty that I could no longer stay silent. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced with questions. Why did Stephen hate me so much? Was it simple jealousy? Pure spite? Or something deeper and more twisted? I thought about Dad. How happy he'd been before everything went wrong. And I knew I couldn't let Stephen's poison ruin that memory. I wasn't sure what my next step would be. But one thing was crystal clear, I was done letting my brother walk all over me. 2 days later, fueled by a cold, resolute anger, I made a choice that shook the foundations of our fragile family peace. Months ago, I had done something I thought was generous. An olive branch in our strained relationship. I had paid a $2 000 deposit for Steven's wedding venue. A chic Italian restaurant in downtown Cleveland. As a gift to him and Diane. It was my way of showing support. Of trying to be the bigger person, despite his constant need to overshadow me. But after he destroyed my album and taunted me about it, I was done playing nice. I picked up the phone and called the restaurant manager. I'm calling to cancel the deposit for Stephen King's wedding. I told him. My voice as steady as steel. Please refund it to my account. The manager hesitated for a moment. Likely caught off guard by the unusual request. But then confirmed it would be processed within a few business days. I hung up. And for the first time in 48 hours, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Stephen didn't deserve my help. He didn't deserve my generosity. Not after what he had done. By that afternoon, my phone was blowing up with notifications. Stephen had taken to Facebook, posting a long, self-pitying rant about how I was actively sabotaging his happiness. He accused me of being jealous of his success, of being petty and vindictive, and of trying to ruin his wedding. My own sister can't stand to see me thrive. He wrote, masterfully painting himself as the victim in a drama of his own making. My inbox quickly filled with messages from distant relatives and family friends. Some were merely curious, asking for my side of the story. But others were outright accusatory, chiding me for stirring up drama and hurting the family. I scrolled through the comments under his post, my chest tightening with each word. Nancy, that's terrible of you. One aunt wrote, your brother deserves to be happy. Stephen had twisted everything, making it seem like I was the one tearing our family apart. I wanted to fire back, to type out a furious response, exposing his cruelty and lies. But I knew that would only feed his narrative, pulling me down into the mud with him. Instead, I shut off my phone and tried to focus on my work at the bank. But the sting of his public betrayal lingered like a persistent poison. The next morning, my mother showed up at my house, unannounced. Frances stood in my living room, her arms crossed tightly over her chest, her face a mask of disappointment and frustration. Nancy, why would you cancel Stephen's wedding deposit? She demanded, her tone sharp and accusatory. You know how important this is to him. You're causing so much trouble for no reason at all. I stared at her, stunned into silence for a moment. I had naively expected her to understand, to see how deeply Stephen had hurt me. Mom, I said, forcing my voice to remain calm. He destroyed the album I spent months making for Dad. He stood there and mocked me for it. Why on earth should I continue to support him? She shook her head, brushing off my words as if they were insignificant. You're being selfish. Nancy, she said, her voice devoid of any sympathy. You could have talked to him privately, instead of escalating things like this. You're making a spectacle of our family. I felt my throat tighten. The raw unfairness of it all, hitting me like a physical blow. My mother had always favored Stephen. But to hear her defend him now, after his calculated act of cruelty, cut deeper than I ever could have expected. She left without another word, leaving me alone in my living room, my thoughts swirling in a toxic mix of anger and grief. That evening, just as I was beginning to feel completely isolated, my phone rang. It was Diane. I braced myself, expecting another lecture. But her voice was soft, almost hesitant. Nancy, I owe you an apology, she said. I froze, completely caught off guard. Diane went on to explain that she had been at the party and had seen everything. She saw Stephen's behavior, the callous way he'd laughed off ruining my gift, his arrogant and dismissive attitude when I confronted him. I thought I knew him, she said, her voice heavy with a sadness that felt genuine. But that night, and the way he's been acting ever since, it's like I'm seeing the real Stephen for the first time. He's so selfish, so full of himself. He's been bragging to his friends about how he put you in your place. I'm so sorry I didn't speak up for you sooner. I sank down onto my couch, my heart racing. Diane's words were a lifeline, a validation of everything I had been feeling. You don't have to apologize, I told her, my own voice a little shaky. I'm glad you see him for who he really is. She sighed, a sound heavy with disillusionment. I do, she said quietly. promising to call again soon. Diane's call shifted something fundamental in me. For the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't alone in this fight. Stephen's actions weren't just hurting me anymore. They were starting to unravel his own carefully constructed life. I didn't know what Diane would do next. But her words gave me a spark of hope. I wasn't going to let Stephen's lies on social media or my mother's accusations break me. I had made my stand by canceling that deposit. And I wasn't backing down. As I sat in my quiet house, I realized this was bigger than a ruined gift or a family argument. It was about standing up for myself. About refusing to let Stephen's spite define my reality. I didn't have a plan yet. But I knew one thing for certain: I was ready to fight back. Whatever it took. Story 2. The dining room should have been perfect. Every detail had been meticulously planned: imported wine, professional catering, fresh flowers adorning each table, the mortgage on the house, paid in full, the restored china glinting under candlelight, purchased with her money. Even the roof overhead had been secured by her success. Yet as Natalie Monroe sat surrounded by extended family cousins, aunts, uncles, siblings, she felt completely invisible. 7 years of building a multimillion-dollar company, employing over 150 people, and earning national recognition seemed to mean nothing within these walls. Then came the words that would shatter everything. "Get out of my house. You lowlife." Her father's voice cut through the warm holiday atmosphere like a blade. In front of everyone she'd financially supported for years, Howard Monroe dismissed his daughter's achievements with a single, devastating word. That moment and the journey that led to it reveals a harsh truth about entrepreneurship that business schools never teach. Sometimes, the biggest obstacles to success aren't market conditions or competition. They're the people who should be cheering loudest from the sidelines. Growing up in Brookhaven, Illinois, Natalie Monroe learned early that her dreams didn't align with her family's definition of success. In a household where achievement meant framed diplomas and stable careers with pensions, entrepreneurial ambition was viewed as a character flaw rather than potential. Howard Monroe taught high school mathematics for 3 decades, believing discipline and traditional education solved everything. His wife Donna worked as the school librarian, maintaining order through calendars and routine. Their life plan for Natalie was predetermined: excel academically, attend university, secure a real job, and settle into predictable stability. But young Natalie showed entrepreneurial instincts from the start. At age 10, she launched her first venture, selling custom friendship bracelets at recess, earning $1 each and selling out within a week. By 12, she was creating personalized water bottles with hand-cut vinyl stickers. Her parents' response was consistent: "That's cute, but hobby don't pay bills." Her father would add, "You're smart enough for something real." The word real became a label that excluded everything Natalie loved. Success, in their framework, required traditional credentials, not creativity. Innovation, or entrepreneurial vision. High school brought continued tension. Natalie maintained acceptable grades to avoid conflict while pouring her energy into an Etsy shop, selling hand-designed planners and digital downloads. While classmates attended prom and football games, she studied SEO optimization and answered customer emails until 2 a.m. To appease her parents, she enrolled at the University of Illinois studying business administration. The irony of learning entrepreneurship theory while actively running a business from her dormitory wasn't lost on her. Her perspective shifted entirely during a part-time retail job in downtown Urbana. Working in fitting rooms, she witnessed countless women struggling with online shopping's fundamental flaw: clothing never fit as advertised. Models were digitally altered fantasies. Sizing charts proved unreliable. Real bodies never matched the marketing. One customer's frustration crystallized the problem: why can't clothes just fit like they do on the website? That question sparked an idea that would eventually become FitLook, a revolutionary e-commerce platform showing clothing on real women with diverse body types, not airbrushed models or mannequins. 2 years into college, Natalie made the decision that would define her career. She dropped out to build FitLook full-time. Her parents' reaction was brutal. "You're throwing it all away," her father said coldly. "Reckless." Her mother added, "Don't ruin a good thing for some silly app." To them, entrepreneurship wasn't ambition, it was failure waiting to happen. 3 weeks later, Natalie moved into a basement apartment with a broken heater and visible mold. Her bed doubled as her workspace. A wobbly folding table served as her desk. She survived on instant ramen and bad coffee, working 12 to 16-hour days, building the prototype. She convinced local boutiques to loan clothing for test photographs. Most refused. A few agreed. She recruited volunteer models, real women, with authentic body types, and photographed clothing on a second-hand camera. Editing every image on a glitching laptop. 2 weeks after launch. The first order arrived $43. Natalie cried harder than she ever had, not for the money, but for the validation. A stranger had believed in what she built. That single order silenced every doubt about whether she'd made the right choice leaving college. Orders didn't trickle, they surged. Within 6 months, Fitlook averaged 70 orders daily. Natalie hired her first contractor. Then, a developer who rebuilt the entire platform. The office above a pizzeria became headquarters for a growing movement. By year 2, revenue reached $4 million. By year 3, $8 million. The company expanded internationally, won industry awards, and earned features in major business publications. Yet throughout this meteoric rise, her parents' perspective never changed. Her father still introduced her as taking a break from school, never as CEO, entrepreneur, or business owner. At family gatherings, her achievements were minimized or ignored. When Forbes featured her work, her father commented, "They'll put anyone in those magazines now." Even as Natalie secretly paid their mortgage, covered medical expenses, and funded her brother's college tuition, respect remained elusive. The turning point came when her father was laid off after 30 years of teaching. With retirement just 2 years away and no backup plan, her parents faced financial crisis. Natalie didn't hesitate. She paid for roof repairs, medical treatments, and a replacement vehicle. When her younger brother Kevin was accepted to private college, she wired the first year's tuition without being asked. Every bill, every crisis, she carried them all. But the pattern was clear: she was giving, they were taking, and she remained invisible. During one family dinner, as her father lectured about the value of real education, Natalie finally spoke up. "Dad, I employ 150 people. We're tracking $12 million in revenue this year." He barely looked up. "That's nice. But these internet things come and go. At least Kevin's getting his engineering degree." The message was unmistakable: traditional credentials would always matter more than actual achievement. By year 5, Fitlook's success was undeniable. Fast company profiles, CNBC interviews, publisher offers for book deals. Natalie purchased a lakeside home 20 minutes from her parents, hoping proximity might finally thaw their cold reception. Her father visited once, glanced at the view, and remarked, "Must be nice to skip student loans." The financial requests never stopped: surgeries, tax bills, weddings, laptops. Natalie never refused, still believing that if she gave enough, someday they would finally see her. Then came that Thanksgiving. Natalie spared no expense: professional catering, expensive wine, fresh flowers throughout the house. Every detail was perfect. The family gathered in the home she'd saved from foreclosure, eating food she'd purchased, surrounded by comfort her money provided. Before dinner, she shared news: Fitlook had won the National Retail Innovation Award. More significantly, she'd received a $22 million acquisition offer. The reaction was silence. Her father finally spoke. "What would you even do with that kind of money?" When Natalie explained her expansion plans, he cut her off. "Anyone can get lucky. What happens when it falls apart? You're still uneducated." The table froze. No one defended her. "Dad, I've run this company for 7 years," Natalie said, her voice steady despite the pain. "We employ 150 people. I paid your mortgage. I covered Mom's medication. I paid Kevin's tuition." His eyes narrowed. "How dare you throw that in our face? We never asked for your handouts." "They weren't handouts," she replied. "They were love from a daughter who showed up, even when respect never did." Her father stood abruptly, his face flushed with anger. "Get out of my house, you lowlife." The word hung in the air, like poison. Not one family member spoke in her defense. Natalie folded her napkin with trembling hands, placed it on the plate she'd paid to restore, and stood. "I'm a lowlife," she said calmly. "A lowlife who built a $22 million company, who kept this family afloat, If that's a lowlife, I'll accept it. She walked out through rooms she'd renovated. Over floors she'd financed. Past family photos where she smiled. As if she belonged. I'm leaving, she said at the door. Not because I'm disrespectful. Because I'm done accepting yours. That night, Natalie drove until the city lights disappeared. Eventually, stopping at a roadside motel. In that generic room, she confronted a painful truth. No amount of success would ever make her parents see her value. By morning, she'd made her decision. She accepted the acquisition offer and announced her relocation to Florida, away from the family who had taken everything while giving nothing in return. The news spread quickly. Her story resonated with millions who recognized the same pattern, giving everything to family members who demanded more while offering no respect or appreciation. Her mother eventually reached out, not to apologize, but to request financial help with property taxes and medical bills. Natalie's response was clear: I won't. Not until something changes. For the first time, she set boundaries. If they wanted help, it would come with conditions. Genuine apologies. Acknowledgement of what had happened. Family counseling. And respect before money. Her mother was shocked. If we lose the house, it's on you. Natalie's reply was firm. If you lose the house, it will be because a grown man refused to apologize to his grown daughter. Not because that daughter drew a line around her dignity. In Tampa, Natalie built a new life focused on peace rather than approval. She invested in her team, launched a mentorship program for unconventional entrepreneurs, and discovered that chosen family, the people who genuinely saw and respected her, mattered more than blood relations who never would. She spoke at leadership conferences about her experience, delivering a message that resonated globally. Real power isn't being celebrated. It's when you stop auditioning for love that refuses to see you. Approval is borrowed. Peace is owned. Her mother eventually sent a handwritten apology letter, explaining that her father had left for someone younger and that the silence Donna had maintained for years wasn't protecting anyone. It was killing her. They began rebuilding their relationship slowly, carefully, on Natalie's terms. When her mother held a gallery opening for paintings she created in secret for years, including portraits of Natalie at different life stages, a fragile healing began. But the core lesson remained. Natalie's peace came not from her mother's apology or her father's absence, but from her own decision to stop trading dignity for family acceptance. Natalie's story reveals uncomfortable truths about success, family dynamics, and self-worth. Family without respect is obligation disguised as love. Blood relation creates starting points, not obligations to accept disrespect indefinitely. Traditional definitions of success limit innovation. The same credentials that provided security for previous generations may not apply to today's entrepreneurial landscape. Financial support, without appreciation, becomes exploitation. Helping family should be reciprocal, not one-directional extraction. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. Healthy relationships require mutual respect, regardless of familial ties. Approval from others is temporary, self-respect is permanent. Building life around others' validation creates unstable foundations. Today, Natalie continues expanding her business empire, while mentoring entrepreneurs who don't fit traditional molds. Her Untraditional Founders Initiative provides resources, connections, and support for innovators whose paths don't follow conventional routes. Her relationship with her mother remains complicated but improving. Her father has never apologized. Some family members have reconnected, others haven't. But Natalie has found something more valuable than family approval: peace with her choices and pride in her achievements, independent of others' opinions. Her message to entrepreneurs facing similar challenges is clear. The question isn't whether they'll ever change. The real question is, when will you choose yourself? Natalie Monroe's journey from college dropout to multi-million-dollar entrepreneur wasn't just about building a successful company. It was about recognizing that success means nothing if it requires sacrificing self-respect for others' approval. Her story challenges conventional wisdom about family loyalty. Asking difficult questions. What do we owe family members who diminish our achievements? When does supporting loved ones become enabling their disrespect? How do we balance familial obligations with personal dignity? The answers aren't simple, but Natalie's choice offers a framework: prioritize peace over approval. Set boundaries even when difficult. And remember that chosen family, people who genuinely see and support you, often matters more than blood relations who never will. For entrepreneur building unconventional paths, her message resonates powerfully. Your worth isn't determined by traditional credentials or family validation. It's proven by the value you create, the people you employ, the problems you solve, and ultimately, the peace you find in your own choices. Sometimes, the bravest business decision isn't about markets, funding, or competition. It's about walking away from a table where you'll never be given the seat you've earned and building your own table instead. That choice, choosing dignity over obligation, peace over approval, self-respect over family acceptance, may be the most profitable decision an entrepreneur ever makes. Story 3. I stand alone in the bridal suite at Willamette Valley Vineyard, staring at my reflection in the full-length mirror. My wedding dress fits perfectly, every seam, and crystal exactly where it should be. The makeup artist outdid herself. My eyes look wider, my cheekbones more defined, my lips the perfect shade of rose. The white roses in my bouquet rest on the vanity, waiting. I check my phone for the 14th time in 20 minutes. No messages from Mom. Nothing from Dad. Not even a text from Logan. A soft knock at the door breaks the silence. Martha, the wedding planner, pokes her head in. Her practiced smile, barely hiding her concern. It's time. Caroline. Are you ready? My eyes drift to the window overlooking the ceremony space. 90 guests are seated in neat white chairs. The string quartet plays softly. Probables and potties halved. And in the front row, 3 empty seats stare back at me like accusations. They're not coming. Are they? My voice trembles despite my best efforts. Martha's smile falters. There's still time, she says. But we both know it's a lie. I take a deep breath and smooth the silk of my gown. Let's go. The doors to the garden open, and 90 heads turn to watch me walk alone down the aisle. I feel their sympathetic gazes like physical touches, little pats of pity that make my skin crawl. Some whisper behind cupped hands. Others offer encouraging smiles that only make the hollow feeling in my chest expand. My focus narrows to Ethan waiting at the altar, his eyes steady on mine. The love radiating from him is almost enough to push away the memory of my mother's voice 3 days ago. We'll try, sweetie. Logan's firm has an event that weekend. Mom's dismissive tone had cut through the phone like she was declining a casual lunch invitation. Not her only daughter's wedding. I can pay for the flights, I'd offered, desperation clawing at my throat. The hotel. Anything. Please. Mom. In the background, Dad's voice had drifted through. Tell her we're busy. Now. Placing one foot in front of the other. I force myself to breathe. In. Out. One step. Another step. I will not cry. I will not give them the satisfaction. Even in their absence. When I reach Ethan, he takes my hands in his. His fingers are warm. Solid. Real. I'm here, he whispers. Too low for anyone else to hear. We're enough. For a moment, I'm 8 years old again. Standing in our living room, while Mom and Dad fuss over Logan's debate trophy. They position it carefully on the mantel. Step back to admire it from different angles. Take photos to send to relatives. My art contest certificate sits forgotten in a kitchen drawer. I'd shown it to them earlier that day. Pride bubbling up. As I explained how the teacher said I had exceptional talent, Mom had glanced at it and said, "That's nice, honey." Before turning back to the dinner she was preparing. Later, Dad had ruffled my hair absently. Logan needs more support. He's going places. He'd explained when I asked why they went to all his events but missed my art showcase. You understand, don't you? Caroline. And Mom. Never missing an opportunity. Why can't you be more like your brother? He focuses on what matters. I tried harder after that. Academic awards. College scholarships. Business success. Each achievement. A desperate attempt to turn their heads in my direction. Each one noted with distracted acknowledgement. If acknowledged at all. The ceremony continues around me. I say me vows. My voice growing stronger with each promise. I choose a future based on seeing each other clearly. I tell Ethan. The words carrying more weight than anyone. But he understands. When the officiant pronounces us husband and wife, Ethan's mother envelops me in a warm embrace. You're one of us now, dear, she whispers. And something tight in my chest loosens just a fraction. The photographer captures us on the dance floor. Ethan twirling me under the string lights. His cousins join us, forming a circle of laughter and music. For moments at a time, I forget about the family-shaped hole in my celebration. I forget about the phone I've checked too many times. I forget about the explanations I've given to curious guests. At the reception, Sarah, my college roommate, raise her glass to finding the family who deserves you, she says, her eyes holding mine with fierce loyalty. A murmur of agreement ripples through the crowd. The truth of her words hits me like a physical blow. All these years, I've been invisible to the people who should have seen me most clearly. I've been chasing approval from those who never intended to give it. When the celebration quiets for a moment, I slip away to check my phone one last time. No missed calls. No messages. Not even a token. Congratulations. Ethan finds me there, staring at the blank screen. They missed something beautiful today, he says, wrapping an arm around my waist. I look up at him. At the man who has never once made me feel like I needed to earn his attention. I think of his family, who welcomed me without reservation. I think of friends who traveled across the country to stand beside me. I set the phone down. Their choice, I say, feeling lighter than I have in years. Not my burden. And for the first time, I almost believe it. 2 years later, I leaned back in my ergonomic chair, staring at the computer screen. Acquisition of Crescent Motion Studio, finalized at $21 million. 2 years of negotiation. 5 years of building from scratch. And now validation in the form of 8 figures. My office door bursts open as my team floods in with bottles of champagne and plastic flutes. To Caroline. Jen, my creative director. Raise her glass. The woman who built something from nothing, while certain people weren't looking. I smile, clinking glasses with 12 people who actually showed up for me. Unlike my family, we're celebrating when my phone buzzes. A notification from Instagram: Logan posting about his twins' private school fundraiser. I shouldn't look. I do anyway. There they are. Mom and Dad flanking Logan and his wife Hannah. Their identical daughters in matching plaid uniforms. The caption reads, "Family tradition continues. 3rd generation at Westridge Academy." Dad's arm is draped around Logan's shoulder. Mom beaming at her granddaughters. I swipe through more photos. Logan's family vacation to Hawaii last month. The holiday gathering I wasn't invited to. Dad's retirement party. In each one, they look like the perfect American family minus one daughter. What's more telling than the photos is what they represent. The vacation rental in Maui costs at least $5. $0 per week. Westridge Academy runs $30. $0 per year per child. Logan's house in the background of several shots sits in a neighborhood where nothing sells for under $2 million. All funded by my parents' retirement savings and family investments. According to the gossip from distant cousins, who occasionally remember I exist. Caroline. Jen touches my arm. We lost you for a minute. I lock my phone screen. Just checking messages. Where were we? The celebration continues around me. But I'm mentally calculating. Logan's law firm is moderately successful, but nowhere near the level that would support his lifestyle. My parents have been quietly propping him up for years, depleting their retirement to maintain his image. Meanwhile, my $21 million acquisition doesn't warrant so much as a text message. After the team leaves, I scroll through my parents' social media. Hundreds of posts about Logan's accomplishments, the twins' milestones, family gatherings. My existence is limited to a single birthday wish last year. A generic "Happy birthday, Caroline." Without even a photo. I close my laptop and make a decision. The next morning, I call my financial advisor. The Porsche Taycan metallic gray. I want to complete the purchase today. 3 hours later, I'm signing paperwork for a $135,000 car. It's extravagant, unnecessary, and exactly what I want. Not because I need my family's approval, but because I never needed their money. Back home, I take a single photo of the car in my driveway. The afternoon sun gleaming off its metallic finish. I post it to Instagram with a simple caption. Dreams realized. For 3 days. Nothing. Then on Wednesday afternoon, my phone lights up with a name I haven't seen in 5 years. Mom calling. My stomach tightens as I answer. Hello, Caroline. Mom's voice carries that particular blend of authority and urgency she reserves for family crises. We need to talk. Family meeting tomorrow. Family meeting, I repeat. Hearing the disbelief in my voice. After 5 years of silence. You're calling about a family meeting. This is important. She pauses. And I hear Dad's voice in the background. Tell her it's important. He says. As though I can't hear him. What's important, I ask. My wedding wasn't important. My business wasn't important. What exactly matters now? Mom's voice tightens. It's complicated. Financial issues. We need to discuss it as a family. Of course. They saw the car. They know about the acquisition. Now suddenly. I'm family again. Tomorrow at 2. I say before hanging up. The next morning. I slide into my new Porsche. The leather seat cool against my back. The drive to my childhood home takes 40 minutes. Time enough to remember birthdays celebrated without me. Achievements unacknowledged. Holidays spent alone while they gathered without me. I park in the circular driveway. My metallic gray Porsche looking starkly modern against their traditional colonial. For a moment. I sit there. Hands gripping the steering wheel. The last time I stood on that porch was 6 years ago. When I'd announced my engagement to Ethan. Mom had nodded politely while Dad checked his watch repeatedly. Clearly waiting for me to leave. They've never needed me before. Why now? My phone buzzes with a text from Ethan. Remember who you are. Call me if you need extraction. I smile despite myself. Another notification appears. An email from Naomi Blake. The investor who believed in crescent motion when no one else would. Your worth isn't measured by those who couldn't see it. A final alert. My assistant confirming tomorrow's meetings. Don't let them take too much time. You have the production review at 4. Come on her. I take a deep breath. Remembering my therapist's words from last week's session. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protection. I straighten my shoulders and step out of the car. Before I can knock. The front door swings open. Mom and Dad stand there. Their expressions shifting from annoyance to shock as they take in the Porsche behind me. You've done well for yourself. That's sis. Not hello. Not. I've missed you. Just an assessment of my financial worth. Yes. I reply simply. No hugs. No warmth. They lead me to the dining room table where Logan and Hannah already sit. Their faces. A study and calculated concern. Caroline. Logan nods. As though we spoke last week instead of 5 years ago. Let's get straight to business. That's ace. Pulling out financial folders. I remain standing. My purse strapped tight in my grip. The only outward sign of the turmoil. Beneath my calm exterior. No. First, I'd like to know why I'm suddenly important enough to include in family discussions after being excluded from everything else for years. Mom and Dad exchange glances. Logan shifts uncomfortably. We can discuss that later. Mom says. Her voice slipping into the dismissive tone. I know too well. We have more pressing matters now. I'm not in a rush. I reply. Still standing. And I'm not interested in being convenient family, only when you need something. For the first time in my adult life. I see uncertainty flicker across my father's face. In this moment. I understand they need me now. And for once. I have the power to decide what happens next. The dining room of my childhood home feels smaller than I remember. Richard sits at the head of the table. Hands folded like he's presiding over a board meeting, rather than a family crisis. Elaine perches beside him. Her posture. Perfect, despite the worry lines creasing her forehead. Across from me. Logan slumps in his chair. His designer shirt wrinkled at the cuffs. Hannah sits beside him. A leather photo album open on her lap. It's foreclosure. Caroline. Richard's voice is firm. But carries an unfamiliar tremor. Logan's mortgage is 3 months behind. The twins' private school tuition is unpaid for this semester. I say nothing. Letting the silence stretch. 2 years of no contact. And this is what brings us together. You need to help your brother. Richard slides a document across the polished oak table. Loan paperwork. Already filled out. The presumption steals my breath. Think about your niece and nephew. Eline's voice catches. A practiced hitch that once would have sent me scrambling to please her. They're just children. They shouldn't suffer because of Financial difficulties. Logan leans forward. Eyes narrowed. We're family. That's what family does. When one of us succeeds, we help the others. Hannah flips the album open wider, pushing it toward me. They ask about Aunt Caroline all the time. She points to photos of children I barely recognize. Their faces shining at a birthday party I wasn't invited to attend. Maddie wants to know why you never visit. Richard clears his throat. We've done everything we could. Our retirement fund is. He trails off, exchanging a look with Elaine. We've been supporting them as best we can. The implication hangs in the air between us. My success means I owe them. My independence is selfish in the face of family need. I close the photo album and slide it back across the table. Where were you at my wedding? The question falls from my lips with surprising calm. Logan blinks. What, my wedding? 2 years ago. Where were you? Elaine's hand flutters to her throat. We were busy. Logan had that event with his firm. It wasn't convenient. Richard adds, as if commenting on a missed dinner party. I nod slowly, feeling something crystallize inside me. And yet here you are now. Because you saw the Porsche on Instagram. You only contacted me because you saw the car. Logan's face flushes. That's not fair. Isn't it? I sit straighter, feeling the power of my financial independence in my spine. Where there once was anxious curve, there's steel. I built everything alone. Every scholarship. Every client. Every late night. Where were any of you? Richard's eyes narrow. What's that got to do with the current situation? Everything. I fold my hands on the table, mirroring his posture. I'm listening. Tell me why I should write a check today. Logan slams his hand on the table. You always had to prove something. Always showing off how smart you were. How creative. How special. Some of us were just trying to live normal lives. Richard's hand settles on Logan's shoulder. Your brother had more potential. We had to nurture that. You were always so independent. We're still your parents. Elaine whispers, tears gathering in her eyes. Despite everything, you were parents in title only. My voice remained steady, surprising even myself. You missed my high school graduation. You missed my college scholarship ceremony. You missed the launch of my company. You missed my wedding. I tapped the table with each missed milestone. You missed my life. And now you want to share in what that life has built. Caroline. Richard starts. You didn't build this success. I continue. You don't get to share it. My phone vibrates in my pocket. I glance down to see Ethan's message. You okay? Meeting running long. Inner asso. The sight of his name brings back Naomi Blake's words when she invested in my startup. You don't need approval from anyone who can't see your light. I think of my team at Crescent Motion. Their faces shining as we toasted the acquisition. People who chose to see me. To support me. To believe in what I could build. In my briefcase rests the contract for the foundation funding. Signed by the board last Tuesday. People who trust me with purpose. Not just money. Richard slides the loan paperwork closer to me. We're only asking for what's reasonable. Family helps family. The interest rate is quite fair. Elaine adds. As if offering a favor. Logan's smirk returns. Confident now. Blood is thicker than water. Caro. I stand slowly. Deliberately. The motion draws their eyes. Their bodies leaning forward expectantly. I reach for my briefcase and set it on the table with a soft thud. I've made a different decision. I say. Logan's eyes fix on my hands as I unlatch the briefcase. Richard shifts forward in his chair. Elaine's fingers twist the napkin in her lap. Instead of a checkbook, I withdraw a single document and place it on the table. This is the announcement for the Rivera Media Scholarship Foundation. $16 million to create opportunities for young women in digital media arts. I smooth the paper with my fingertips. The press release goes out tomorrow morning. 16 million. Logan chokes out the number. Namil after Miss Rivera. My high school media arts teacher. The woman who attended my gallery showings when my family was too busy. The money is legally protected in a foundation trust. The board approved the allocation last week. Silence falls like concrete across the table. I'm helping girls who never got the applause I didn't get. I say. Gathering my belongings. That's what family means to me. Logan's face contorts. Veins standing out on his forehead. You're wasting it on strangers. On nobody girls who deserve better than what I got. I snap my briefcase closed. Girls who need someone to invest in them. My parents sit stunned, staring at the paper that represents millions they'll never touch. I pick up my phone, turning the screen toward them. A recording app displays an active timer. 36 to 14 and counting. I've also documented every manipulative message from today. I say quietly. Every threat. Every demand. Every guilt trip. Just in case anyone gets creative with legal claims against the foundation. I walk toward the door, my footsteps echoing in the silence. Behind me, I hear Logan's chair scrape back violently. You can't just leave. His voice cracks. We need that money. I pause at the threshold, not turning back. No. Logan. What you needed was to show up. At my graduation. At my company launch. At my wedding. I place my hand on the doorknob. But that opportunity has passed. The door closes behind me with a soft click that sounds like freedom. The Porsche purrs beneath me as I drive away from my childhood home. My knuckles no longer white on the steering wheel. The further I get, the steadier my hands become. I press the call button on my dashboard. It's done. I tell Ethan when he answers. They showed exactly who they are. Sen. How bad was it? His voice fills the car. Concern wrapped around each word. Exactly what we expected. I take a deep breath, feeling lighter than I have in hours. Logan lost his mind when I showed him the foundation paperwork. Dad tried to salvage the situation, but Mom just kept crying about family obligation. Are you okay? A fair question. I glance at myself in the rearview mirror, surprised to find no tears. No flush of embarrassment. Only a clear-eyed woman looking back. I'm better than okay. For the first time, I saw them clearly, without hoping for something different. I'm proud of you, Ethan says. Remember. Foundation board meeting at 9 tomorrow morning. Everything's ready for the press announcement. The timing had been deliberate. Establish the foundation legally, before any family confrontation. Schedule the announcement before they could regroup. No emotional pleas. Just legal structures they couldn't penetrate. The Rivera Media Scholarship would be my legacy. Not a family drama. I'll be ready. I promise, before ending the call. The first message comes at 11:47 p.m. By midnight, my phone buzzes continuously, with family emergency texts. I silence it, and place it face down on my nightstand. The house is quiet, except for Ethan's steady breathing beside me. I don't need to read their messages to know what they contain. Morning brings 6 voicemails from my mother. The progression evident in her tone from weepy pleas about family unity to sharp accusations of betrayal, culminating in threats about what people will think of a daughter abandoning her family in their time of need. You've dealt with worse, I tell myself as I apply mascara. The morning routine grounding me. Mi navi suite. The one I wore when signing the acquisition papers. Hangs ready on the closet door. Ethan hands me coffee in my favorite mug. Logan's been calling business associates, he says, scrolling through his phone. And your dad tried reaching my uncle. Predictable. I take a sip. The coffee bitter, but fortifying. They're moving faster than I expected. But not more cleverly. The foundation board meeting goes smoothly. 12 accomplished women from media and finance. All personally vetted. All committed to supporting young female artists. The press release is approved unanimously. Launch details finalized. The first scholarship recipient will be selected in 6 months. I'm reviewing the event venue proposal when Janine from reception calls. Miss Rivers. Your family is here. They're causing quite a scene. Through the glass walls of my office, I can see security already moving toward the lobby. I straighten papers that don't need straightening. Have security escort them out. Please. Calmly and professionally. I watch through the windows as my mother's voice rises over the general office hum. My daughter is abandoning her family. Her hands gesture wildly. Her pearl earrings swinging with emotion. Logan stands beside her. Arms crossed. Face flushed with a particular shade of red it used to turn when he was denied something as a child. My team watches me for cues. I stand. Smooth my skirt. And walk to my office door. It's being handled. I tell them with a calm I've practiced for this moment. Let's continue with our work. Security escorts my family toward the elevators. Logan's voice carries back. This isn't over. We have family obligations, you can't just ignore. That evening, I draft a single email to all three of them. I have documented your harassment at my workplace. Any further attempts to contact me at my office will result in a formal complaint. All communication regarding family matters must be directed through my attorney, whose contact information is attached. Caroline. Direct and clear, says Patricia, my therapist. 2 days later, we sit in her sunlit office. The faint smell of jasmine tea between us. How did it feel sending that necessary? I trace the pattern on the armchair. Not satisfying. Exactly. More like setting a boundary. She offers. Yes. I look up at her. They're showing who they've always been. Aren't they? People tend to reveal themselves under pressure. Patricia says. What you're seeing now isn't new behavior. Just intensified. The realization washes over me. Simple, but profound. I wanted their love. But they wanted my resources. That's an important distinction. All those years. My voice trails off as connections form. The childhood neglect. The absent parents. The way they appeared only when I had something to offer. It wasn't my job to earn their love. It was their job to give it freely. Cly. And now I know I'm not responsible for fixing them. I say. Feeling the truth of it settle in my bones. There's freedom in that. The next morning brings news that Logan has contacted the Portland Chronicle about a family dispute. The reporter, smarter than Logan, anticipated, asked why none of them attended my wedding. The resulting story paints a picture. Logan hadn't intended of parents absent during milestones, suddenly interested when money appeared. My mother's social media rant generates an unexpected wave of support for me. Former classmates, business associates, even distant relatives reach out with messages of solidarity. We always wondered why they never talked about your success. Writes a cousin I haven't seen in years. Richard's attempts to contact my investors fizzle when they refuse to discuss a personal matter. The community rallies around the Scholarship Foundation instead, with applications already pouring in months before the official launch. The Portland Business Journal requests an interview about the foundation. I agree. Setting clear parameters. We'll discuss the scholarship's purpose and impact. Not family matters. The reporter, Delia Warren, meets me at the foundation's temporary office space. This is an impressive initiative, she says. Reviewing the prospectus. $16 million is substantial seed funding. What inspired such generosity? I consider my words carefully. I had a teacher who saw potential in me when others didn't. Miss Rivera changed my life by simply paying attention. I want to create that opportunity for young women who might otherwise be overlooked. You've built an impressive career. Delia notes. Crescent Motion's acquisition was one of the biggest tech stories last year. Is your family proud? The question hangs between us. I could dodge it. Redirect to safer territory. Instead, I meet her eyes directly. My success was built without family support. They weren't at my wedding, my graduation, or when I sold my company. Delia's pen pauses. That provides interesting context for the foundation's mission. Later that week, the article appears with the headline, Self-Made Success Creates Legacy of Support. The contrast between my generosity and my family's entitlement becomes public narrative. When news of Logan's house foreclosure breaks days later, the community connects the dots without my saying a word. Ethan handles increased security protocols at our home. My business team manages communication strategy, filtering messages, and prioritizing foundation work. Naomi Blake, my first investor and mentor, releases a statement supporting my commitment to lifting others rather than enabling dependency. My college friends form a protective circle, filling our calendar with dinners and events that leave no room for dwelling on family drama. Patricia provides anchoring during weekly sessions. The United Front becomes its own kind of family chosen. Intentional. Supportive. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I received the Business Leadership Award from the Women in Media Alliance. Standing at the podium, looking out at faces that genuinely celebrate my success, I realize the tables have completely turned. My parents' retirement plans are now delayed indefinitely. Hannah's social position in her precious country club circles has eroded with their financial collapse. Logan's twins will transfer to public school next semester. Meanwhile, the foundation thrives, generating positive coverage that spreads beyond Portland. The story resonates not because I sought revenge, but because I chose to transform pain into purpose. The scholarship committee has selected 3 finalists for the first award. Janine tells me, placing the portfolios on my desk. They'd like your input by Friday. I open the first file and begin reviewing the work of a young woman, whose teacher noticed her talent, when no one else did. The circle completes itself. Healing through action, rather than looking backward. Family defined by what it does. Not what it claims to be. For the first time in my life, I feel truly seen. In weeks to follow, I deleted the 4th voicemail from Aunt Meredith without listening past her plea of, "Everyone misses you. Caroline." The Thanksgiving invitation sits in my email inbox. Its subject line: family needs to be together. A transparent attempt at manipulation. My phone chimes with a text from my cousin Drew. "I don't understand this rift between you and Uncle Richard. Can't you just talk to them?" Of course, he doesn't understand. He wasn't at my empty wedding. He didn't witness 20 years of invisibility. A letter arrived yesterday from Mom. The elegant handwriting unmistakably hers. "We always believed in you," she wrote. As if rewriting our entire history. The envelope sits half-burned in my fireplace. Its edges curled and blackened like the lies it contains. "Dad called my office directly last week. We need to clear the air," he said. His voice lacking any acknowledgement of what they'd done. My assistant, following strict instructions, told him I was unavailable. Permanently. The final straw comes when Logan sends the twins to my office with handmade cards. "We miss Aunt Caroline." Written in childish handwriting. I know isn't theirs. The manipulation is so transparent it makes my stomach turn. They're using every emotional lever they can find. Ethan observes that evening, examining the cards on our kitchen counter. They're desperate. I flip through the week's collection of attempts. But they still haven't actually apologized. The family attorney calls next. His voice professionally neutral. There are moral obligations to consider. "Caroline. Family ties carry certain responsibilities. The implication is clear. I'm the villain in their story. The heartless daughter who abandoned her struggling family. Pastor Wilson from the church I stopped attending years ago leaves a voicemail. Your parents are deeply concerned. Perhaps we could meet to discuss reconciliation. 2 childhood friends, neither of whom I've spoken to in a decade, suddenly reach out. Your parents seem so heartbroken," says one. "The holidays are for forgiveness," says the other. When Logan's wife Hannah emails photos of the twins in Halloween costumes. "The children ask about you constantly." I nearly throw my phone across the room. They're framing this entire situation as my responsibility. I tell my therapist during our weekly session. My forgiveness. My duty. My failure to be the bigger person. "And how does that make you feel?" she asks. Her eyes steady on mine. Angry, I admit. But also validated. They wouldn't fight this hard if they weren't afraid of losing control. The foundation selection meeting provides an unexpected challenge. The committee recommends a scholarship for Maya Harrison, a 17-year-old filmmaker whose application video shows remarkable talent and painful familiarity. She reminds me of myself. I tell Ethan that night. Quiet. Determined. Overlooked. I watch her interview video again. Maya's eyes hold the same weariness I see in my own wedding photos. She talks about finding her voice through filmmaking when her family couldn't hear her. What if I'm wrong to cut them off completely? The question slips out before I can stop it. Ethan sits beside me on the couch. What brought this on Maya? If I'm telling these girls to find their strength, am I modeling that by running away from my family? Is setting boundaries running away? Ethan asks. I consider this. No. Boundaries aren't abandonment. What would you tell Maya if her family treated her like yours treated you? The answer comes easily. I tell her she deserves people who see her worth. The Thursday before Thanksgiving, I host dinner at our home. The dining room table extends to accommodate everyone. Ethan beside me. Naomi across from us. My business team scattered between. Maya sits at the opposite end. Her scholarship certificate framed on the sideboard behind her. Our home glows with warmth my parents' house never had. Candles flicker in silver holders. Laughter rings against the ceiling. No one here needs to prove their worth to be seen. I raise my glass. To those who see us as we are. The toast echoes around the table. My phone stays off. Notifications silenced. The meal unfolds in perfect rhythm. Conversations flowing without the undercurrent of judgment I grew up with. Au verre dessert. I announce the foundation's new mentorship program. I'll be personally involved with each recipient. I explain. We're creating connections that matter. Maya's eyes widen. You'll be mentoring us yourself. Every step of the way. I smile at her. This foundation isn't just about money. It's about building something meaningful together. Naomi nods approvingly. You've created structures that can't be interfered with. The foundation's independence is legally secured. I confirm. Its success will be measured by impact. Not approval. Later. As we clear plates. Ethan turns on the local news. Right on schedule. The feature about the foundation airs strategically timed to coincide with my family's traditional dinner hour. On screen. I speak with confidence I've earned. We build family through action. Not obligation. The report transitions to financial analysis. Contrasting the foundation's transparent governance with examples of mismanagement. Including a not-so-subtle reference to Logan's business failures. Maya watches. Transfixed. They're actually comparing your brother's company to the foundation. Facts speak for themselves. I stack dessert plates with steady hands. The community has validated what my family refused to see. The following morning. My parents request a meeting at a coffee shop downtown. I arrive in the Porsche. The car that triggered their sudden interest after years of silence. Dad looks older than I remember. Defeat etched into lines around his mouth. We should have been there. He admits. Staring at his untouched coffee. At the wedding I ask. Though I know that's not all he means. Everywhere. His voice cracks. All those years. Mom's eyes shimmer with tears. How can we fix this? The question hangs between us. 3 months ago. I might have grabbed at this opening. Desperate for any acknowledgement. Now. I feel only calm clarity. Some things can't be fixed. I tell them. Only accepted. Mom flinches. I'm not closing the door forever. I continue. But I need accountability. Not convenience. I'll consider limited contact after you both start therapy. That's unnecessary. Dad begins. The old dismissiveness rising. It's non-negotiable. I sip my tea. The warmth spreading through my chest, like certainty. They exchange glances. The silent communication of people who never expected consequences for their choices. Logan's financial collapse has stripped away their illusions of his superiority. My success exists beyond their reach. The foundation thrives independent of their approval. When they leave. No agreements have been made. No concessions offered. I watch them walk to their car. Asensible. Sedan now. The luxury vehicle's long gone. I drive away without looking back. Freedom. Replacing obligation in every beat of my heart. The foundation awaits. Maya's project needs review. My chosen family expects me for dinner. For the first time. I'm moving towards something, instead of away from someone. And that makes all the difference. I stand in the sunlit studio of the Crescent Foundation. Watching Maya adjust her camera settings. The morning light filters through the tall windows. Casting golden patterns across the polished hardwood floor. It's been a year since I faced my family for the last time. What do you think about this angle? Maya looks up. Her eyes bright with the same creative fire Miss Rivera once saw in mine. Try moving it slightly to the left. Catch how the light falls across the subject. My voice carries the confidence of a mentor now. Not the desperate plea of a daughter seeking approval. On the wall behind Maya. Photos document our scholarship recipients' projects. Stories they never could have told without the foundation's support. Each frame represents a voice that might have been silenced. Just as mine nearly was. My office here replaced the childhood bedroom where I once dreamed of being seen. Every element from the ergonomic chair to the awards displayed without apology on floating shelves I chose deliberately. Nothing inherited. Nothing tainted by obligation or guilt. I've finished the final cut of my documentary. My SS. Straightening up. Would you watch it with me? We move to the editing bay, where her project plays on the high-definition monitor. The documentary follows 3 generations of women in a rural Oregon family. Their struggles and resilience is beautifully captured through Maya's lens. Watching her work. I feel a swell of pride entirely different from anything I've known before. This isn't about me. It's about what she's created. What she'll continue to create. When the final credits roll, Maya turns to me. Tears brightening her eyes. You're the reason I believe I can do this. She says. Wrapping her arms around me in a spontaneous hug. I think of Miss Rivera. How she recognized something in me when my own parents couldn't be bothered. How her belief sustained me through years of family indifference. Now the cycle continues. Not of neglect, but of genuine support. Later that week, I stand at the podium of the Portland Arts Center, accepting a Community Leadership Award. The audience applauds. A sea of faces turn toward me with appreciation, not pity. Ethan sits in the front row, beaming with unrestrained pride. There are no empty seats causing me pain tonight. No phantom family members I wish were here. Every person in this room sees me. Truly sees me for who I am. Thank you. I begin. My voice steady. This journey began in invisibility, and has led to impact. For years, I measured my worth by the approval I couldn't earn from people who refused to give it. I pause it. Let my gaze sweep across the room. Now I measure it by what we build together. The standing ovation washes over me like a cleansing wave. My therapist calls it post-traumatic growth. This strange peace I've found, after accepting that some wounds never fully heal. I maintain careful boundaries with extended family. Holiday gatherings now center around chosen family. Celebrations filled with genuine joy rather than dread. Ethan and I have established our own traditions. Naomi's retirement party at the foundation last month brought together the circles of support that lifted me when blood ties failed. The emergency fund for students facing financial hardship. My latest project ensures that talent isn't crushed by circumstance. I understand now what these young women need because I lived without it. Unconditional belief in their potential. Driving home through Portland in my Porsche, I pass the coffee shop where I once edited videos on a borrowed laptop. Through the window, I catch a glimpse of my parents walking on the sidewalk. Our eyes meet briefly. I don't stop. There's no pain in this moment. Only peaceful acknowledgement. They taught me what love isn't. Ethan and my work taught me what it is. Tomorrow, Maya sets up for her next project. I'll be there. Camera in hand. Showing her techniques I've mastered over years of making myself visible. Family isn't who raises you. It's who lifts you.